Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Here in this video, I will review the X-Man Tornado V2, and in the end, I will give my opinion on if you should buy it or not. So in this video, we will talk about the specs of the cube, how to tension the core, how to adjust the magnets, how I set up this cube, the turning, the corner cutting, and lastly, how well it works on solving and if you should buy it or not. You can find all these chapters in this video in the description below. Now, the first X-Man Tornado came out about 9 years ago, so the V1 is pretty old, and this is the long-awaited updated version 2. The first version was pretty popular, and this version is also a new game changer because of its adjustment system. So let's get right into this video. So for the specs of this cube, it is $25 on speedcubeshop.com, and it has 55 millimeters and 73 grams. It was released on May 26, 2021, and I have a link in the description for you to buy it if you want to get it. Now, it feels much more expensive and a lot more premium than $25, which is quite cheap for a good flagship like the Tornado V2. It is also 55 millimeters, and as you can see, I have my 56 millimeter 3x3, and as you can see right here, it makes a little bit of a difference, but otherwise it feels the same thing as a 56 millimeter cube. When I first tried this cube, I didn't really feel the size difference, so you shouldn't really worry about the 55 millimeter size. The weight at 73 grams is also pretty light for a flagship 3x3. It's the third lightest magnetic flagship 3x3, and the two lighter 3x3s are the GAN 11M Pro and the Dian Guhong V4M. But that is if you count the Dian Guhong V4M a flagship. But this is also very light, and it feels really light for a cube. I could definitely tell out of the box when I got this that it was very light and it had very effortless turning right here. Another interesting spec about it is that it has black internals, because as you can see, the internals are black, and you basically only see that on GAN cubes like I have over here, where a lot of the internals is black, and you don't usually see black. You usually see the normal color internals or the primary internals, but I like the black internals, and I think it looks a lot nicer with these black internals, so that's another interesting spec about it. Now, for the next part of this video, I'll explain to you about the tensioning and elasticity system that is one of the most mind-blowing parts about this cube. With 25 different ways to adjust the core, it is crazy how many different ways you can adjust this cube to fit your turning style. So how you adjust it is you take off one of the center caps. Now, these center caps are hooked on pretty tightly, so you get the screwdriver right here, and on the back, if you take this out, then you can see you have these tools right here. This is the flathead screwdriver, and this is the other tool that we will be using. So here's this. It looks kind of like a fork. So how you do it is you put it right on here, and it's nice because it's magnetic, so it clicks right in. And then you can put this flathead back right in its spot. So the screwdriving system is really nice. And then you can put this back, and this will be magnetic too when it clicks back in, just like that. Now, how I would recommend doing it is if you don't want to use your fingers to get it, you can just clip it off just like this. And that's how you take the center cap off. Now you want to adjust the elasticity and tensions. And the pamphlet that it comes with, it explains a lot about this on the pages where you can see how to tension and the elasticity system works. So the tensioning system is clockwise, and it'll show you all about this. So as you can see on mine, the way that you tell how it's going to be is if you can see right here by the edge piece, there's that little divot right there. And that is where you tell the tension right on that divot. So whichever number is in front of that divot, as you can see, mine is blue, and that's the 1 setting. You might not be able to read the numbers, but whatever number is in front of that divot, that's the tensioning. And the lower the numbers, the looser it is. So if you have the lowest number, that's the loosest tension. If you have the highest number, that's the highest tension. Now in the circles, that represents the elasticity, and whichever number you have in the circles is the elasticity. Now, as you can see, I also have the blue, which is 1, but you can have any of the numbers. So first, let's go how to tension it. So you get the screwdriver. As you can see, I have this fork-shaped tool, and then to adjust the tension, you move it clockwise like this. And you can adjust all the tensions just like this. And if you go 360 degrees or 180 degrees, it'll go back to the setting that you were on before. So you adjust the tension just like this. You turn it clockwise. And then, as you can see, if you move it, then another number gets in front of that little divot right there. And that's the tensioning distance and how loose the core is. And that makes the springs a bit looser if you turn it to the lighter tensions. Now, if I put mine on 5, that means I have the tightest tensions, and to me, I don't think it turns that well. So that's how you adjust the tensions. Now for the tension, you turn it clockwise like this, but for the elasticity, you turn it counterclockwise. So as you can see, if I had the blue 1 at the top, next to the divot, but in these circles is where the elasticity is and where the axis distance is. So if I turn it counterclockwise, as you can see, the numbers on the outside don't move. So I can turn it counterclockwise and they won't move just like that. And then in the circles, that's the elasticity. Now you use mostly the same number system and it's a lot looser once you turn it to 1, versus 5. So it can go numbers 1 through 5, and it's the same thing if you turn it 360 or 180 degrees, then it goes back to where it was before. So you turn the elasticity or axis distance counterclockwise. Just like that. Now when tensioning your cube, I would typically recommend doing the lower numbers because that makes it a lot easier and smoother to turn, and I wouldn't recommend the higher numbers, but that is your preference if you want it. And when you put the cap back on, as you can see, there's these little holes right there, and on the cap there's these little spikes that stick out, and you want to put it right next to those. That's how you clip the cap back on, just so you know when you put it back on. Alright, so now we're going to go over how to adjust the magnets, and there are 5 magnet settings, so we're going to adjust them, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So first, what you need to do is you want to get the screwdriver that you had before, and instead of using this fork-shaped one, you want to get the flathead screw and take this out. And then you replace it with the flathead screw, and then you can put this part back in its place. Alright, so now that we have the flathead screwdriver, I'm going to show you what the magnet settings are. So on the magnet settings, you can see right here, there's the minus sign, then there's 3 dots, then there's the plus sign. The minus sign is the loosest magnets, plus sign is the strongest magnets, and these 3 are in between. So as you can see, I have the second loosest magnets right here, and then that would be medium, and then the second strongest right there. And how to adjust the magnets is you put the screwdriver in right like this, and then after you put it in, what you want to do is you want to turn it so that it can go to either side of the magnet you want it to be, if you want to make it stronger or lighter. And typically I would recommend less strength on this cube because the strength is very strong, and if you want to be a lot quicker, then I would recommend less strength for this. Now when adjusting these magnets, you have to do it 24 times, twice for each edge. So I have to do it this side and then the back side, and then the same thing for all the edges. So you have to do the whole middle layer, then you have to do this whole layer, both sides, and then you have to do this whole layer, both sides. So it takes a little long time, but it's fine. Now the other thing you need to be aware of is when you push it down, it doesn't click into place. So when I push this magnet setting down, it won't click into any of the other settings. You just have to adjust it so it looks like it's in the other setting, so it doesn't click into place, which is one more thing you need to be aware of. I've tried most of the magnet settings, and I definitely prefer the second to loosest one the most, if that's how you want to set it up like me. Alright, so now I'm going to share how I set it up. So first, right when I got this cube, it felt pretty dry and really tight, and the corner cutting wasn't very good, so I had to loosen it a bit, and it felt also very dry, so I had to lube it. Now the magnet settings were a bit strong, and to make your cube looser and feel quicker, you want less magnet strength, and you also want looser tensions. So if you see, if I pop this cap off right here, I have all my settings on number 1, and I've just stuck with that because it feels fine and it's not too loose for me. It feels pretty quick and smooth, and I really like it on number 1 just like this. So I'd recommend keeping it on 1 or at least 2 or 3 because those are pretty low and I like it that way. And that's what I do for all my centers. Now, as I showed before, for my magnets, I have them at the second loosest, and that's also the way I like it because since this is a really tight cube and it doesn't have the best corner cutting, I want to maximize the corner cutting ability. So I put it at 1, and then it cuts just fine, just like this. Watch this. Cuts pretty good like that, and then reverse. This is as far as it'll go. And it can't go that far, but you gotta have more accurate turning, and this cube will test that. And for me, my accurate turning is just fine, and I think once you get used to this cube, it'll be easy, and you won't need to corner cut too bad, and you won't have a lot of lockups. Now for lubing it, in the core, as you can see, we have this new spring system, so I wouldn't recommend lubing the core. I just recommend lubing the pieces. And the way I lubed it was, as you can see, is pretty liquidy in there because I recently lubed it. But how I lubed it was I got my favorite SpeedCube Shop lube, which is Comet. Now I really like Comet because since this cube is really light and quick out of the box, it slowed the turning down, and Comet is also very fast, but it's heavy. And here's a picture on the screen what Comet's stats are. So as you can see, it's pretty heavy, but it's also very fast and it can last a while. So the heavy slowed down the turning a bit, but it was also very fast, so I could turn at maximum speed. So that's why I chose Comet for this. And it's my favorite SpeedCube Shop lube, and I like to put it on my 3x3s because it works very well. Now if you're enjoying this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe because then you won't miss out on any of my other cool videos, and that would help me out a lot. Now let's go about the turning. So the turning, it's very smooth and effortless, and that's how it was out of the box. It also feels very premium, and it feels like a good flagship, and it feels very expensive for a 3x3. And you also can hardly hear it unless you spam TPS, so I'll be quiet and listen to this. It's very buttery and smooth like when I set it up with Comet. And unless you spam TPS, it's also very quiet too. Now, if I had to compare this to another cube, it feels a lot like the GAN XS and how it's smooth and it's very buttery, and depending on the way you set it up, it's a lot like that cube. Now, the one thing about the turning is the M moves are a bit harder and you have to use some more force to do the M moves compared to other cubes. But otherwise it's very smooth, and since you have magnets on each side, it makes the M moves a bit slower, but that's the only downside about the turning, and you'll get used to that after a while. Now for the corner cutting, it's not terrible, but it's not great to today's standards. As you can see, I can cut pretty good normally, but in reverse it's not the best because it can't really cut that much, and on most cubes you can easily cut that much, even budget cubes. But also it has a very bad reputation for corner cutting, and I think the reputation it has is a lot worse than what it really is, especially if you set it up on setting 1 for tension and elasticity, because then it turns a lot better. So if you hear from other places it has really bad corner cutting, that's typically because they don't have it on setting 1, and if you put everything on setting 1, then it turns a lot better and the corner cutting is better, especially if you're an accurate turner. Now it can cut typically 50 degrees normally on setting 1 like I have here, and it can cut 30 to 35 on setting 1 reverse. Now if you put your tension and elasticity settings a lot higher in the core, it will cut a lot worse and it won't turn as well. So that's why I really recommend putting on lower settings in the core. Now the only algorithm that I lock up on is the NB perm, and it goes like this. And I just can't do it as quick as I can on other cubes. Maybe it's just because of the way I turn, or it's because of the algorithm, but I just can't do it as quick as I can on other cubes. But that's the only algorithm that I have locked up on, and most of my other algorithms work just fine. And like I have said before, the best way to not have lockup and corner cutting issues is when you have everything at setting 1 in the core, and if you are an accurate turner. But if you get this cube, you will get used to its turning style after a while, and you will improve on it. Now let's talk about some solves. Here are some videos of solves I did that I recorded for you guys. I get the same times so far on the RS3M 2020, which is pretty good because right out of the box and after setup I get the same times, and I haven't even quite gotten used to this cube yet. So I will be able to get some better times on this cube. So in the initial unboxing I got a lot of lockups, but I don't really too much anymore because I am getting used to this cube. Now for this cube, I would recommend it if you're willing to upgrade and get a better cube or try out all new customizations for this cube, because it has very nice customizations. It is very easy to customize for anyone, and I would recommend it if you don't want to spend more than $30 on a 3x3. I average sub 15 on 3x3, but if you average sub 30, I would recommend it, and if you're looking to improve and get a lot faster, I would recommend this cube. The corner cutting of it isn't that big of an issue as people make if you have looser tensions and are a more accurate turner. I lately have gotten a lot better using this cube, and I recently got a new personal best average of 5 of 12.86, which is my best average of 5. This cube makes it very easy to spam TPS if you're a quick turner, so it averages a wide range of cubing skills and that stuff. I'm also very excited to use this as my new main because I chose it over the RS3M 2020 and I really like it. Now if you want to customize it like me, I will also have links to Comet and the Tornado V2 in the description below that you can buy from speedcubeshop.com. That's the full review for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any thoughts, be sure to comment them down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the other videos on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.